everyone and welcome back to OIC News. I'm your news reporter for today, Beatrice, and also with Isaac today. So today we'll be actually diving into the complexities of the US inflation during the year 2022 to 2023. So it was quite a turbulent period of time, right, Isaac?
Absolutely, Beatrice. Inflation during that time was a significant concern for both economies and everyday citizens. Also shown here is the CPI graph above that goods and services are peaking. Let's start by breaking down what inflation actually is. Essentially, it's the general increase in the price of goods and services across the economy. This means that people can buy less even though with the same amount of money.
Right, and one of these major drives of the inflation in the economy is that we have the in-demand full inflation. So this happens when there is an increase in aggregate demand without a corresponding increase in the aggregate supply. So if the economy is near full employment and the demand spikes, producers can't keep up with the demand right away. So they need more workers, which means they have to raise the wages to attract them.
Exactly. And this wage increase leads producers to raise price for their final goods and services to cover the higher production costs. During 2022 to 2023, factors like strong consumer and investor sentiment and fluctuation in the value of the dollars contributed to this demand pull inflation. People had more money to spend, but the supply couldn't catch up quickly enough.
Right, and another key factor to this is also the cost push inflation. So this actually occurs when the production cost rises and leads to higher prices for goods and services without a corresponding drop in demand. For example, if the cost of raw material or labor increases, producers face higher expenses.
And they typically pass this cost on to consumer. We saw this with commodity price skyrocketing due to supply chain disruption during the pandemic. Employers are facing higher wage costs also contributed. They often responded by either raising price or reducing their workforce.
That's right, and let's not forget the role of inflation expectations. When companies and consumers expect prices to rise, they act accordingly. During the pandemic, for example, people anticipated shortages and price hikes. So they stock up on essentials, driving the prices to go even higher.
This inflation psychology is crucial. If people expect higher inflation, they demand higher wages and business raises prices, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. If these expectations aren't managed well, inflation can persist or even accelerate.
Yep, and also the central banks actually play a vital role in anchoring these expectations. If people believe that the central bank will keep inflation under control, they are less likely to change their behavior accordingly. But if they lose faith, it can lead to a higher inflation.
Yeah, it's true. So during 2022 to 2023, we had a mix of demand pull and cost push inflation, compounded by inflation expectation. It was a perfect storm that made it difficult for policymakers to change.
Indeed, and also understanding these dynamics actually help explains why inflation surged during that period and highlights the challenges in controlling it. Due to inflation, it causes the purchasing power to reduce, a peak in interest rates, and disrupts the supply chain. This increases the cost of living, squeezes the business profit margins, created economic uncertainty, and strains the government budgets as well. So moving on, we will actually be having an interview with the public about how inflation has actually impacted their lives now. So I'll pass this time to Isaac to interview all the public.
Come. I spotted a potential interviewer. Hello, miss. Are you free?
Huh?
Oh, we are going to interview about the US inflation. Do you have some time that you can share with us?
What inflation? What?
Oh, you see, right? Because you can see from the news, right? The CPI of our country have rose to 0.3, while the inflation have also remained high. This causes the purchasing power of consumers to decrease, right? So we would like you to share about some insight about this issue.
You saying the prices all go up?
Yeah.
I tell you, I need go 5 different store every day, buy egg, buy meat, buy this, buy that. And they putting everything inside, like putting gold inside like that. How I get money? Are you?
I see. So the inflation has caused you to struggle, right? So, like, have you changed your shopping habits because of this?
Yeah. My kids want snack, husband shout every day, cannot take it, oh my god. And then my kids always ask for snack, ask potato chips, now one potato chips costing $6. How I buy? Last time $3, now $6. How I buy? I know money. So my kids ask for snack, what I say? Mommy knows Narasmi. Mommy.
Ah, I see. Thank you for your time. What's your name again?
My name is Mrs. Bing Bong.
Mrs. Bing Bong. Okay, thank you. Welcome back to OIC News. Today we'll be interviewing a beggar by the road. Hello, Mr. Beggar. Would you mind if I ask you some questions?
Yeah. Is this the type of interview where you come and ask me questions, then you give me some money in return?
Sadly, no. We're just a news reporting. Yeah.
Alright. So what's the question?
So,
How
like,
can you
explain like why are you like living here?
Well, I got fired from my previous job. I used to work in Microsoft Office. You know, all the Indians used to work there. So, all the Indians, I think we can find them all over the street. We got fired because of the inflation rise.
So, due to the inflation rise, you are forced to leave your company. So, how has inflation caused you to struggle?
I lost my house, lost my girlfriend, I lost everything. I only have this one cloth left to wear every day. I got no money to even buy food for myself. Like, you know, it's so hard to live here in New York. Like, I need to buy food for my girlfriend. It's so hard. So like, she left me. I got no money to buy food for myself. How do you think I can buy for my girlfriend? So yeah, she left me, and I couldn't pay the rent for my house here in New York. It's really hard. So yeah, here I am.
Would you like explain like what happened to your shoe?
Oh, that's a funny story where one guy just stole my slipper. I don't know. So yeah, it's very hard for me to get a slipper too. I can't walk around.
Alright, thank you for your interview with me today.
Thank you, Isaac. So indeed, we have seen the public having a very hard time with all the prices increasing and whatever the negative effects that the inflation has caused. So now we're actually going to look into the ways of the government has actually implemented to combat this inflation. So I'll pass the time to you, Isaac.
Thank you, Beatrice. The government has implemented a few ways to increase the gradual increase of price in the economy. One of them was the Federal Reserve using the monetary policy measure to raise interest rate from near zero to range of 4.25 to 4.5 before the year end. The rise in interest rate has caused borrowing to be more expensive, reducing consumer spending and business investment. As such, the move curbed excess demand that could be an upward factor in price pressure.
That's right, and not to mention, the Federal Reserve has also implemented quantitative tightening by selling government bonds, and not to mention mortgage-backed securities. This helps to decrease the money supply floating in the financial system in order to tame the country's inflation. It reinforces rate hikes as long-term interest rates will rise further.
Alright guys, we heard what the government implemented to tackle the issue of inflation in our country. But is there any other way to tackle this issue? Luckily, Beatrice is also a certified economist and will be sharing with us some of her perspective.
Thank you, Isaac. So there's actually many other ways to tackle this inflation issue. So one of them is contractionary fiscal policy, which mainly focuses on the tax rates and also the government spending. So this will help to reduce the total amount of spending in the economy.
Right, I heard this method has a risk of policy lags. When the economy takes an unexpected turn, it can take a long time to create a new policy, and then a while longer for it to work. So there's such a lag between taking action and creating change. So by the time new policy is implemented, it's possible economic condition may have changed, gotten worse, or even improved. Is that true?
Yes, it is true. But fortunately, our government has actually a built-in economic policy and also a program stabilizer which helps to buffer the changes in the economy. So when the economy is in either direction or changes in either direction, these stabilizers will automatically adjust the taxes and also the spending without any new legislation. So for example, if the inflation in the economy is happening, it means there is a lower unemployment rate. So this causes the automatic stabilizers to decrease the unemployment insurance, which decreases the government spending.
I see. Are there any other ways to prove this method can really help to decrease the price level?
Yes, there are actually. So we can actually prove it with this aggregate demand graph over here. So as you can see, if there's an inflation, the AD1 will move to the right. So in order to decrease the inflation, we have to make AD1 go down to, we have to make the graph go down basically. So going downwards, AD1 to AD2, how we're going to do this is basically to decrease the spendings of the unemployment insurance, so decrease the government spending, and then we are going to raise their taxes, which will reduce the consumer spending. So when we do this, the price level will reduce from P1 to P2, then the supply will also decrease from Y1 to Y2. So this is how I prove the aggregate demand graph, using aggregate demand graph to prove that the contractionary fiscal policies.
I see. Are there any other policies to tackle this situation?
Yes, actually. So another way is actually the trade policies. So trade policies basically when the government reduces the import tariffs, and one of the policy options for government is when they lower the import tariffs, the tax charge on imported goods will actually not be so high.
Do we have a graph to prove it?
Yeah, we do. So instead of aggregate demand, we're going to use an aggregate supply graph instead to show the supply and then to show the price level as well. So when when there's an inflation, the supply will actually go inwards, so they will go to the left. So in order to decrease that, we're going to take the aggregate supply number 1 to go down to aggregate supply number 2, and by doing that is literally to just reduce the tariffs and then to make sure that the prices go down. So when we reduce the tariffs, you can see that the prices actually do go down from P1 to P2. Then the supply will actually increase from Y1 to Y2. So this is how the import tariffs, decreasing it can help to decrease the price level.
Alright, thank you Beatrice for your insightful insight.
Thank you for actually letting me share on this platform as well.
So that's all for our time today for OIC News. See you guys in another time.